Joie and Mandy, everything divorce related. We can put the S back in your ex appeal. Joie and Mandy, the friends you didn't know you needed on my ex appeal. And everything divorce podcast.
Hey, what's up? Welcome to my Ex Appeal, your Everything Divorce podcast. I'm here with my co-host,
Mandy Baker.
And Mandy, what are we?
We are the friends that you didn't know
passed the test. Thank you very much.
Yay.
So today's episode is going to be very interesting, Mandy.
I'm happy about today's
Oh, good.
episode.
Okay, thank God. So one of our episodes that we had a while back, like almost a year, I think.
I think so.
Was
Amanda, you were one of ours.
So one of our first episodes was called The Divorce Diet, and it happens to be our most popular episode to date. So we have the wonderful Amanda Dewey on with us today. Hello, Amanda.
Good day to you finally.
Good day, sir.
Good day.
So if you want to listen to more of Amanda's story, you can go back and listen to that episode, The Divorce Diet, to kind of catch her background and everything like that. But the three of us have known each other for years. We worked together in our former industry that we could have a whole other podcast about, but we won't do that today. But today we wanted to follow up with Amanda because we did so well the last time and we got your story of going through your divorce, but we wanted to talk a little bit about the next chapter of your life and what that's been like, because it's been a chapter, I'm sure. And you could help a lot of women not only go through the divorce process, and we talked about eating disorders and how to be healthy and things like that. We'll continue that conversation, but to also help people go through the next chapter in their life or give hope for another chapter. A lot of women go through divorce and they're like, I'm never going to do this again. Like I'm never doing it.
Yeah. Or they just feel hopeless, or they feel like this is the end. Like on some of those rabbit holes that you can go on social media with the divorce groups. And I'm just like, I want to reach out to every single woman that thinks that this is the end and give them a great big hug and say, don't put that out there. Like move forward, pick yourself up. You can do this.
Do you feel like that at any point, Amanda, when you went through your divorce, where you're like, what am I going to do? I have two little kids. Like
I mean, probably for a short time. I met my husband real fast. Like real super fast. This is a little bit of tea.
Yeah, why not? We love it.
I mean, this is like a small warm.
Okay.
So it was like my ex and I made the decision on a Thursday night. Friday morning, I called a lawyer. And Friday afternoon, he took his stuff and left. And Friday night, now this is, early, mid 2000s, right? Or 2008, right? Okay. I go on the computer and create an eHarmony.
Okay.
And here's why. Not because I was like, I'm getting divorced, I need to get married. Not because I'm getting divorced, I need a date. It was literally because I need to have hope. I need to know that there will be a human being out there that I can connect with, that would want to connect with a mom with two little kids. Like I wanted, I was staying at home at the time too. So I also wanted some adult interaction and conversation. And yeah, that's not where I met my husband, but I literally just put myself out there right away because I was just like, I just need to know, I felt like in some way I needed to know that it would be okay and that I would maybe someday have a relationship again in some way. Yeah.
I mean, I know for me, do you think that most women probably the relationship ended so long before the actual decision was made that I don't think people realize that if you go on eHarmony, even if it's the day after you make the decision, that people are like, ew, that's fast. But you're like, you don't know when this ended.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I had made a choice. You know, we were married, I think, for 6 years. I had made a choice probably at the halfway point that what my parents had done was stayed together for the kids.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was just like, I don't know. I mean, I guess we'll just stay together. Like, whatevs. So emotionally, we were not in that marriage for, I mean, like I'm sure he felt the same way, you know? So like, I mean, we're talking probably 3 years of like emotionally, like we were just roommates.
This is when you were signing up for eHarmony. Did you think, shit, I have baggage? I have 2 kids?
No, not really. I really didn't. I think I must not have been thinking about it too hard. Cause like I said, I wasn't like out like looking for another marriage. I think I was truly looking for like, could I connect with someone again? I really
love
think
that.
I really think it, for me, it was an emotional thing because I guess, you know, in hindsight, I mean, I said it like the first 3 years weren't great. We obviously never really connected on a deeper level. And then the second 3 years, it was complete emotional abandonment by both of us. That was like, he was living his life. I was living my life. We were not connected emotionally at all. And so I think I was really truly looking for the emotional side of it. And like, I don't think I thought about the physical side at all because it wasn't where my head was at.
Though I wonder, do you think that you just have a better headspace, or do you think that you, like you said, you just you did it so fast? Like, is it better for somebody to just jump on eHarmony? Is eHarmony still a thing?
I have no idea.
What do you do now? What do the kids do nowadays? Like, I wonder if it is better to just jump on there just for the hell of it, right? Like just to get yourself back out there.
So I went on three dates pretty quickly. And I think that was probably more when the physical side was like, oh shoot, like I would actually have to like hold hands with somebody else or like that idea that I really think like the physical aspect did not hit me until I was face to face with people. And I was like, oh yeah, there's that part of it too. Right.
Okay. So what are these dates like?
And I feel like this could be like a lifetime movie because I really feel like each one of the guys really taught me something really quickly. Like, I feel like I learned the lessons really fast. So there was this one guy, made me laugh till I cried. Like, we would chat online. I would literally laugh till I cried. And I was like, that's been missing. Mm-hmm. I had that in a previous relationship, like that connection of laughter and just like sense of humor or whatever. I was like, ooh, that's real super important to me. This is going on my list for next time. Right. Simultaneously, this guy had 3 kids with 3 different women. And I was like, I don't want that. I don't want, in that moment, and I have no judgment for anybody. This is not a judgment statement. This was me going, I don't want that mess in my life. I have 2 kids. He has 3. He has 3 ex-wives. That sounds messy to me. I am not looking for mess. Right. So as much as I like enjoyed his sense of humor and that aspect, I was like, okay, also going on my list, and you guys are going to laugh because I was 27, right? I was like, no ex-wives, no kids.
Okay.
Double standard. Okay. I realized this, but I was like, I mean, if I'm making a list, like I'm going to make my dream list. Guys,
why not?
Guys married, no kids. Right. So this was my list. So I was like, okay, cool. And so obviously whatever that happened. Then I was talking to a guy who was a doctor. And he was really super nice, very kind, really super boring, but very kind, very generous, had a lot to offer, had a really nice house, was genuinely interested in me. And for that, like that for me was like a confidence builder that I felt like, hey, someone who's obviously has some genuine, real success in their life is interested in me. And that built my confidence from like a perspective of like, you know, yes, I am like a college educated woman who's like in a real bad situation right now that I didn't expect to be in. But like, you know, like I felt valued in
Like
that
you
way.
weren't just a
And so,
divorced stay-at-home mom and nothing else.
yeah, right. Like, hey, like, no, I do bring a lot to the table. I do have things to offer.
Mm-hmm.
And so like successful, you know, a man with a career and success like went on my list because I was reminded by this guy that I was worthy of that match, right? He was boring, so whatevs. That ended up not going anywhere. And then there was a guy who was super physically attractive and like worked out. And I was like early in my fitness career at that point, you know, and that was something I was just like getting into. But like the chemistry was great, you know, and we did not talk for very long, but I was like, oh, like I want that aspect to be great in my next relationship too. Like physical chemistry, attractiveness, whatever that looks like. Right. And so I'm like, just like creating this list and all of my friends are like, have fun with that. Like, by the way, while you've been like married since you were 21 and having babies, we've been out here trying to like date, and good luck with that list, sister, you know? But like 3 weeks later, I met my husband and he met everything on that list.
Oh, that's
Aw.
crazy.
I love that.
And
And I love the insight that you had at 27. Like at 27, if I was divorced, I'd be like, fuck all this. I'm going partying. Like, get a babysitter. I'm out, you know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's very insightful of you to sit down and be like, no, I've got 2 kids. I need a plan.
Yeah. Yeah. It was like what I was looking for. Yeah. And I didn't want to like mess around. Like I was just like, either it's like this or nothing, you know? And I wasn't expecting to find that so immediately, like at all. But what's really funny is what I didn't know was like that whole year leading up to that, he was also my husband, was in therapy and working on his list. And so I knew very early on that he had a list, but he was like, I am not telling you because I don't want you to be that person because you know what's on it. He's like, I want to know that you're that person without ever knowing what's on my list. And he's like, at some point, and I feel like I'm really, really sure that that's the case, I'll show you the list. His list was a lot longer than mine. So mine maybe had 3 tough things. Like his was long. It was like a full page, 2 columns.
Oh my gosh.
But I mean, it was literally like he wrote me down on paper. It was crazy.
That is really cool. So you you got back out there. So somebody could realistically do this. Like think of it this way. Just get back out there. You're not necessarily looking for the one, but you're kind of doing research on what you didn't know you needed, you know? Because you don't know what you don't know. You've been married to this one person. You just know it's not working. And then you go and you meet all these people and take their good qualities and you're like weird science. You put together the perfect man.
All the things I knew I didn't want, you know, from the marriage I was in.
Right.
Things I quickly learned that I didn't want, you know, like, and obviously this is probably what a lot of people do while they're dating in their 20s, but I was married in my 20s, you know, so I was just doing a little bit out of order. But then where I actually met my husband, unsurprisingly for anyone who knows us in real life, was at the gym. We just worked out at the same gym. And he approached me and we both had a lot of assumptions about the other person. So it truly was like just kind of a silly flirtation at first, because I assumed he was way older than he actually is, which put him way over like my age.
Oh, you had an age limit too. Okay, I got it.
Okay, so listen. To be fair, my husband's 11 years older than me. because of the time of day he was at the gym and a couple of comments he had made, I had pegged him as probably another 10 years older than
Oh
that.
God. Imagine if someone told me, if somebody told me I was 10 years older than I am, I'd punch him in the face.
Right. So like I truly thought he was probably about 20 years older than he was, which I was like, right?
That's funny.
Mhm.
Right. Not because of how he looked, but just like I said, okay, just like the time of day that he was at the gym, I assumed he was retired because I'm like, what guy is here at 10 o'clock?
Oh, that's a good point. That 10 a.m. time
Yeah.
frame it's a very small pool of people.
Yeah. It's a very small pool of people.
Right. And then he said something. So one day we were like in the parking lot at the same time, and I had two little boys, right? They were like barely 2 and 4. Like they were like right around their second and fourth birthdays. So they were really little. And as I was buckling my 2-year-old into the car, we were literally parked next to each other. He did that on purpose, by the way. We were literally parked next to each other. I was buckling in my 2-year-old and my 4-year-old was on the other side, like crawling in, and he had a Power Ranger, like character, like in his hand or whatever. And he's like, blah, 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 blah. He's like talking to my husband, you know, who I have no idea who this guy is at this point, but he's like talking to him like little kids do or whatever. And my husband was like, oh yeah, you know, and then my son goes, who's your favorite Power Ranger? And this man goes, oh man, I don't know. I haven't really had to think about that for a long time. In my head, I heard my kids are old.
Yeah, I would have thought that too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
He was thinking, I don't have children, so I haven't thought about Power Rangers for 30 years.
Because he oh, okay.
As a kid. Yeah.
So do you see what I'm saying? So it was like all these little tidbits of like, oh, I think this guy's a lot older than me. Like he is like, and I could see obviously he didn't have a wedding ring on. So I'm like, okay, so he's probably divorced older man with like,
You had the whole picture. You had a whole story for this man.
You had a whole assumption.
I also made some other assumptions based on like the vehicle he was driving. And like where we live and stuff. So I was like, okay. I also kind of made some other assumptions about maybe like his politics or something like that. Those were also proved to be incorrect. And yeah, and then eventually, so my husband was an air traffic controller, but one time when we were like talking and flirting, he made a joke about something about being a traffic cop of the skies or something like that. And I didn't get it. It went over my head because air traffic controller is not really a profession you think about. I don't think so. Like when he made that joke, I was like, so he has handcuffs.
Police officer.
Some kind of cop. Right. Some kind of cop.
Like a helicopter cop?
I don't even think the sky part registered. I literally thought police vehicle.
And that's hilarious.
Right. So a lot of misconceptions like off the get-go, but we met at the gym and very like, I guess it was kind of like, I don't know, I guess I'll say it was almost like unwrapping a present because I had all these assumptions about this person. I'm like, okay, so he's cute and funny. And obviously we both like to work out, but like he's old. I don't think his politics are going to align with mine. Like, just like, I guess he's a cop, which I don't know that I wanted to be married to a cop just because of like, I was thinking very much about like lifestyle. My ex-husband was a chef and that, cool, super cool profession, but like the lifestyle that goes along with being married to a chef, you have someone who's always working holidays and weird, super late hours and weekends. And like, I was just like, if I could choose someone who had a different like profession that the lifestyle wasn't going to be like that, so I was thinking like, I don't think I'd like the lifestyle of whatever, as you do, because you like meet people and then you immediately go like, okay, what would life be like to be married to them? Right?
Yeah.
So I had all these assumptions. So it was almost like unwrapping a gift as I got to know him. I'm like, oh, you're not, again, at the time I was 27. I think I was probably assuming he was in his 50s at that point. Right. I was like, oh, you're not in your 50s. Okay. Like your age is within my range. And like, oh, you're not, like a retired old man. You're not a police officer. You don't have an ex-wife and grown children. Like, okay, like, and then I got him in to take a yoga class with me. And then we started talking about like, because of the nature of the class, we started talking about like politics and religion. And I was like, okay, my assumptions about that were wrong. And it was just like this really fun discovery of like kind of proving everything wrong that I had initially thought about this guy.
Homeboy and right.
Yeah. While simultaneously like checking all these things off my list. And all my girlfriends are like, well, you found a unicorn. Have fun with that. Like, don't mess it up. I'm like, oh, geez, thanks, guys.
So ladies, get to the gym.
Yes. And make a list.
And just stop making your list. Date online.
Such a smart
Date online, but then go to the gym and find the guys who want to take care of themselves. And who want to do what you do, because he took a yoga class with you. That was a green flag.
Yep. He was a big meathead. So I was like, yeah, but can you do?
Right. Which they usually can't.
No.
Yeah, they struggle in those classes.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me now, like, let's fast forward a little bit. So you guys obviously go out, you like each other, you date, but what is it? What is he thinking? He's 11 years older than you and you have 2 small children. Did you have that discussion? Was he just like, yeah, I'm in? And that was so easy for him? Like, that's a big step.
Yeah. So, okay. So he was 38, right, when we met. And we've had a lot of discussions about that since then. And he was like, at 38, he's like, I assumed if I was going to meet a woman, I was going to have stepchildren. He was like, that was not like, he was like, I had come to accept that a long time ago. Like, there was probably going to be children, like, or stepchildren, like, in my life or whatever. So for him, that aspect wasn't such a big deal.
He kind of knew going in.
And that's nice that pressure wasn't there to be like, oh, he's not going to accept my children, or I have to choose, like, because that's a battle too.
Which obviously
that you don't want to.
That has to be that had to have been on your list, that he would take care,
Right.
like, just be great to your children too.
I mean, it wasn't on my list because it was that
Baseline.
Like, they are an extension of me. Yeah, that's like that just goes without saying. And I mean, I broke a lot of rules there too. Like, the kids met him a lot sooner than probably, like, obviously it worked out fine in our case, but like I was definitely questioning, like, oh my God, and like, oh, this, like, they're meeting him kind of fast, but they were also really super little. So it probably was a little.
Yeah. I was going to say, they're so small. They wouldn't even remember anyway.
Yeah.
I feel bad for people though, because that's a tough point in a relationship, to meet your kids. And it doesn't seem like there's any correct time to do it. Because you could be with somebody for 2 years, introduce them to your kids, and then you can still break up. So,
And there's also, like, I mean, it matters. Like, I guess for me, like, if he couldn't interact with my children, like, I don't want to get 2 years into this and then find out that you and my kids are going to like mesh. Like, to me, that didn't make sense either. So I don't know. I'm also very, like, even from a really young age, I'm really close with my kids. And so I don't know, like, to me, like, hiding something from them also felt very unnatural.
Right.
Sure.
So again, to each their own.
I think so. I think you got to kind of go with your gut on that one when you introduce your kids, but because there doesn't seem to be a magical number.
Joey, how old were yours when they met Mark?
12 and 13.
Oh, okay. So he was older. Yeah. Mine were in elementary
and
school.
His 4 and 6.
Okay. So they were younger.
But the same thing, I was just like, there's no correct time to do this. So I was just like, do you guys want to meet him? They were like, yeah. And it just didn't seem like there was going to be a correct time to do it.
Mine met Brandon because Casey thought I was lonely. She was worried about me when they were at their dad's. And she was like, I really am worried that you're completely alone. And I was like, well, I'm not. I am and have been dating someone. And she was like, well, where is he? I want to make sure you're okay.
Aw.
And for me, I let them kind of cue me into when it was time for them because they didn't know I was dating at all. And that's how they met.
Yeah,
Brandon.
like what you said, Amanda, to each his own. Just got to kind of.
Yeah. You just got to kind of feel, I mean, because every kid's different and every kid's experience with their parents' divorce is different.
Mm-hmm.
So if they come, if they come from a very agitated home life or whatever they experience, it might not be time for them to meet that person with the other spouse just yet.
Yeah.
But they had
Yeah.
met him without knowing they were meeting him anyway, though. Because
correct. Like, yeah, that's
it seemed like they would just had interactions with him anyway. So it wasn't like a meet
total
and
new
greet.
person.
Do you think so? Now, so how long were you guys together before you moved in together, though? Because I think that's the big step.
A year. So
Okay.
at that point, the boys were 3 and 5.
Because there's
That's
a level of blending when you're blending families. There is always a level of you act as the mama bear towards your biological child. So the parent figure that's in the picture that's telling you what to do, you can't. It's like I don't think that you can't shut that off. You're forever going to be sensitive to that.
That was absolutely the hardest part of our marriage. Yeah. Absolutely. Like you literally, that one sentence was, if there was any reason why my husband and I were not going to make it, it was that.
Mm-hmm.
It was me and my inability to like, I always would tell my husband that it was like a little bit like a gorilla situation where like, gorillas will kill their own children. And not that I ever thought he was going to kill him. You know what I'm saying? Where like, you're just like, I know you're their dad, but like, I'm still going to like step in between. I think that was by far the hardest thing in our marriage that we had to figure out, I think.
Yeah. Same for us. And I finally said to Mark at one point, like when I was, because it goes both ways too, because he'll be a dad bear. Was that what you say? I don't know. Papa bear, probably, right? So he would do the same thing. And then finally, even as like recently, this was pretty recent, over the past couple of years, I was like, when I am angry at your children, just know it's the same anger I have towards my children. So no matter how angry I am that they did something, I don't love them any less. Like you're just assuming that I hate them. And that's not where it's coming from for me. I'm just like, this is a shit kid doing something shitty, all 4 of them.
But you're totally highlighting, I think, something that must be a very common experience because like, my husband would always say, and I will treat, the next 2 the exact same way. It's not going to be any different for her. It's not going to be any different for the little one, and I would be sitting there going, are you sure about that? Because it feels like I've got to defend these older 2. And absolutely, that is probably the worst part of like what our family went through is, and I can take full responsibility for that now, not trusting that he really was going to treat everybody the same way. And he really has. He's like, I am just as hard on these little 2, as I was on you boys.
Yeah.
And it's true. It felt different for me.
Yeah, absolutely. We internalize it differently. Yeah.
But I think some of it 100%. Is like, well, any way you look at it, sometimes the older 2 get the tougher part of any parenting situation. Because by the time you get down to the other 2, you're like, I don't even care anymore. It's whatever. Just have them do it, that type of thing. So you have that involved anyway, which would be a dynamic in a family that's not blended. And now it's exasperated by, I'm 100% with you. Like, are you going to treat them this way because especially when you're the parent of the older ones, that's tough because you're going through everything for the first time and nobody prepares you. I'm sorry. There's baby books up the wazoo, but nobody prepares you for preteen, teen, and young adult. Nobody prepares you for that. So if you're the parent of the older two, you as the parent are already trying to figure out what in the fuck is going on. Like, I don't even know how to handle this situation. So
Yep.
it's a lot easier for the younger ones because you already went through it. So,
Well, and you're coming from that place of like, okay, they really do turn out okay. Everything does work itself out. Like, this is the stuff that was actually a big issue. This is the stuff that we could have let go.
Right.
Yeah.
You
yeah.
What's great is, luckily it seems like we have, our adult children are real, like they can recognize that too, that was part of their experience, was just being the first.
Right.
Yeah.
So going through all of this, let's switch gears a little bit and talk a little bit about nutrition and things like that, because that is a huge piece of going through any of this. So going through a divorce can be very traumatic, but then obviously the three of us just hit a pain point because we're all shaking our heads, yes, with blending families and being a mother and trying to not rip somebody's head off because they're saying something about your kids. Because you can call your kid an idiot. Somebody else calls your kid an idiot and they're dead. You're dead. So now we know that you went to the gym because that's where you met him. We know that through the divorce, you tried to stay healthy because this is just who you are, right? Is there any point like during this? Because now, like, so, some people go into a new relationship and they gain weight because they're so happy too. And then you're going through this like roller coaster ride where your emotions are super, super happy. Now you're blending a family and you're stressed out again and you're up and down, up and down. Like, your nutrition can get completely fucked up that way too. So so how do you maintain that portion of keep that control in your life?
And I said it on the first podcast on the divorce diet, but nutrition is what you put in your mind too. And I shared obviously that, my husband had been in therapy basically to figure out why he was 37 and still single. Right. So like, he was obviously open to therapy. I have talked about being open to therapy. I was very open from the very beginning for my kids to get therapy. So we are a big, like, let's go to couples therapy or child therapy or play therapy. Like, let's get whoever needs it in therapy. Right. So I think a big part of it is being open to nourishing your mind. And Mandy, I can't remember if we chatted about this right before or if this is on the podcast when we were recording, but you mentioned like going into like divorce groups and like, just some of the, like the negative talk that's going on in there. And, some people are really in that pit, and while you can't judge anybody for kind of being in the pit of despair, you kind of can't stay there.
Right.
Staying there isn't good for anybody. And so I think even just being able to like walk forward and like get out of the things that aren't nourishing your mind. Like if you go into a support group, or even if we talked about this on the divorce diet, like you're joining some different groups. And if it just turns out to be a bunch of people who are just really negative, or only have like, well, all men are bad, or marriage is stupid and should never be done by anybody, whatever the case may be. Like if you're going in and you're coming out more anxious and more negative and more sad, then that isn't nourishing your mind either. And so I do think like first and foremost, you got to get like the nutrition from the neck up taken care of. Because if that ain't right, ain't nothing going to be right.
Oh yeah. Cause the more negativity you feed your brain, the more negativity you start to see. You don't see the light. You don't see the happiness. You don't see the hope. All you see is that doom and gloom, because that's all you're giving your brain to see. That's what you're triggering yourself to see. So I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
Like,
your brain is so crazy. Not crazy that it's like amazing that it can do these things. Like it's like when you're on the highway and you just pick out a red car and then all you see is red cars.
All you see.
So it's the same thing.
It's that confirmation bias.
Yeah.
It's that confirmation bias. If you surround yourself with people who have happy marriages or happy relationships, you're going to be able to find that. You know what you're looking for. But if you surround yourself with people that have only had negative experiences or continue to choose poor partners or whatever the case may be, like, That's
where you are.
Yeah, confirmation bias for that. So, I mean, I do think that aspect is really important. I think I chose my circle very importantly. Like I said, nourishing the mind with what you read and the people you surround yourself with and who else is in, happy relationships and that kind of thing. And not to say like you unfriend people who are going through something. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying, like making sure that part is taken care of. And I mean, now we've been together for 16 years we've been together. So obviously, and I've had 2 more children. So, weight fluctuates. And my happy weight today is a lot more than it was when I was 27, when he met me. And I'm also like really okay with that. We've all came from a pretty damaging industry when it comes to toxic, like body and food and disordered stuff. And I think for me, just like a big portion of like nutrition for me is making sure that it's real, like everything's real moderate. Like if anything negative could be attached to it, it starts to go off on a different spiral for me. So for me, good nutrition is like, prioritizing protein, including vegetables, like Mandy said, like the frozen vegetable aisle is a great place to be right now because we've all seen the prices of fresh fruit and vegetables. So we love the frozen aisle, including all of those things, but focusing more on what we're including in our diet about what we're excluding and leaving out. And, like my daughter stayed up late last night to bake a cake, and absolutely I'm going to go eat a piece of her cake today because I think that that's part of a healthy diet too, is having my daughter make a cake from scratch last night, follow a recipe, make it with love, be so excited to show me. And can you imagine if I said, no, I can't have that?
Yes.
Like she's also in an industry now where there's a lot of damaging things that can be done. She's a competitive dancer. So it's even more important for me that I can include a piece of cake in my life and not say anything about it.
And then not go work out for 4 hours to burn it off.
Exactly. There won't be any commentary about it. I'm just going to eat the piece of cake.
It is what it is.
It's really great though.
And it shows you too that you can be in a happy relationship and you didn't have to go on a diet to find the guy. I mean, you were at the gym, but you weren't necessarily on a diet to find him. And he's not going to leave based off of what your happy weight is. Like you said, like if you find the right person, you don't need to go on a diet. Because I think a lot of people, they go through a divorce and they go, if you're working out for your mental health, like you just said, to get your mind right, then go for it. But if you're working out to find a man and you want to be as thin as possible to find that man, how are you going to keep up with that lifestyle?
Well, and is that the person that you want to find? Like, again, like you're going to get back what you put out there. So you're putting out there that you want somebody who's only going to love you based on your size. I wanted someone who, for a multitude of different reasons, yes, we share a passion for health and fitness, but what that looks like, especially as we age, because I don't know if y'all have noticed, but we are aging together. You're both married. Your husbands aren't getting any younger either. They might not have some of the same pressures or challenges as we do, but they have pressures and challenges too. Their bodies are changing too. They're going through some stuff too. And we are too. And like, that's the beauty when you find like a really, like a love that is to be cherished, is that you still see each other, I don't know. Like I always think about like my grandparents. They were happily married until my grandfather passed when he was 96. And then several years later, my grandmother passed when she was 99. But like the way he looked at her when she walked into the room at 90 something years old.
Said, like you're working on your longevity in life together, not necessarily what you look like anymore, because you love each other. I think you could work out all day, and for me, my boobs are still going to be long.
Oh my God.
At this point.
And my butt's still going to be big.
So it is what it is. And I think my left one is longer than the right. I've decided the other day.
They're sisters.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's such a good point. So, yeah, Amanda. So this is amazing, by the way, because this is just we love having you on. You have
Really
like
do.
some great insight on all of it, no matter what time of life it is. And I think we're always on this, even though our divorces happened a long time ago, I feel like we're still like on some sort of like divorce journey. Not that it's like labeled us, but it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
I feel like your mind changes a little bit after you get a divorce on
For
life
sure.
in general, but staying healthy is probably no matter what, you got to do it.
Yeah.
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 And I tend to feel like I cherish this marriage so much more because of what I went
Yeah.
through.
Yeah.
And you get different standards. You have different, you have a different like baseline for things that,
Yeah.
Well, and Joey said something to me earlier this week. She was like, this is your part 2.
Yeah.
Part 2 is supposed to look better.
We came into it with different experiences, different expectations, looking for something, different. Like when you get a second chance, you want to do it. You want to, I wanted to learn from my mistakes and then keep learning because I kept making them even in this marriage. Like, thank God we're both can offer each other grace and forgiveness as we continue to learn and make mistakes, but knowing that like we're really doing it as partners and, at the end of the day, we are on the same team. It's just a completely different experience.
So Amanda, if somebody wants to ask you more questions about anything, nutrition or health, wellness, what's the best way to contact you?
I'm an Instagram girly. Find me on Instagram at Amanda L. Dewey, Dewey, Amanda L. Dewey. Dewey like the decimal system.
Well, Amanda, thank you so much. Mandy, do you have anything else for Amanda?
I just love having Amanda. Amanda, I don't know why we don't go for coffee or a glass of wine.
I know.
Right around the corner.
How are we neighbors and we don't do this?
I know. We need to.
You can find me on Instagram. I'll answer.
Oh, stop it. I'll just show up at your house. I don't know where you live.
That's fine too. I'm just looking out the front window. Where are you?
I might run into you at the grocery store. Did we run into each other at a movie one time too?
Oh, yes, we did. Yeah.
We did. Yeah.
Yeah.
We need to do that. So that's what I have for Amanda is we're going to plan a coffee date. Joey will.
All right, perfect. That's your call to action. Let's get to Amanda's house.
Okay.
Find us on Instagram, send us a DM, share your story with us. We'd love to hear it. And then make sure you go back and listen to Amanda's first episode with us, which is the divorce diet. It's actually really, really good to learn more about her background and her story. So, but we'll have you back again, Amanda. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
and we'll see you soon.
Absolutely.
Thanks to our listeners, sponsors, and our lawyers on my ex appeal and everything divorce.